So we'll be talking today about uncover the hidden job market. And this was a statistic I first saw in 2013. I've seen it in other places, but up to 70% of open jobs are not posted. These are not jobs that are not open. These are 70% of open jobs are not posted. And this was from Forbes magazine. And that's really an interesting statistic because it does mean there are a lot of open jobs out there, even if we're not seeing them through the more traditional ways. So what is the hidden job market? Because of course, that's what we're trying to find our way into. And they're very simply, they're positions that are available, but the company and the employer are not advertising them right now. So they're a little bit hard for us to see unless we maybe know where to look or how they may be available to be found. So let's first talk about what the advertised job market is, and then we can contrast that to the hidden job market. And a lot of these you're going to know. So certainly there are job boards, the job boards pages. And so that could be Career Builder and Indeed and LinkedIn has jobs. Those are where companies are actually posting jobs. And so a lot of times with those are jobs that maybe are open for a while, and this is the way companies do like to promote their jobs. You can usually respond to those ads online and apply right from there. But that's one of the traditional ways that companies do post their jobs and advertise their jobs. Another way is company career pages. Every company has a website, and many companies do post their open jobs right there on the career pages. It doesn't mean they post all their jobs on the career pages, but that's where they post them. And you know, there's been some discussion, are they posting real jobs or are they not real jobs? You're never really going to know, but certainly it's a place to look. The classified ads. Some of you may remember there's something called the newspaper, and the newspaper has these classified ads. Companies put advertisements out there. I remember earlier in my career, it was always for me, the New York Times Sunday classified ads had a very big job search section, and there were always a lot of technology jobs, so it was a good place to go mining for jobs, but that's also a traditional place. Job fairs. Job fairs are actually a very good place to look for jobs, and actually a better good place to look for people, because there are a lot of times that when you do look at a job fair, there may be companies that are there that you're interested, but not quite the job that you're interested in. But talk to the people there. Talk to the HR people and the recruiters and the other people that are promoting, because you'll have a contact. A new contact at that company, but it's a traditional place to go find a job as well. Recruiters, those are the people, typically the external recruiters. They work for other companies. They don't work for the company that you're interested in, unless of course you're interested in being a recruiter. And their main job is to do the sourcing and recruiting, finding talent for the company that is looking to fill a position. So recruiters are also part of the traditional job market. Professional associations, trade associations, these are organizations that congregate people of a specific industry. And often you get to meet people from those industries. Sometimes they also promote and advertise positions that are available. Another great place to find jobs, again, the more traditional part of job search. And more social media sites, and probably in 2020, I no longer need to say more and more, social media is a very huge way for companies to promote their jobs, what they do, all sorts of things like that. So it becomes a great way to find jobs as well. But again, this is the more advertised job market. These are not the hidden jobs. These are the 30% of jobs that are being posted. We're going to see if we can uncover some of those 70% in just the next few minutes. So let's take a step back and think about, well, how do hiring managers like to hire? I was a hiring manager for about the second half of my career. And as much as I enjoyed managing people and projects, the one thing I didn't really like to do was having to hire someone when I had an open seat or an open chair. It was just something I wasn't trained at. I knew I had to do. My bosses were interested in me filling a position quickly. So hiring managers, there are really three places they like to look. And the first place is they like to contact people they already know. They want to reach out to their network and find out right away, hey, are you available to come work for me? And I know I've done that a couple of times. reaching out to people that I know to see if they might indeed be available. It's just easy. When I reach out to somebody I know, I already have some level of trust. Maybe I've already worked with this person, so I know I could work with that person again. You hear a lot of stories about when management turns over. Managers bring in their own staff. Well, they bring in people they know and trust. So it's the place that most managers like to look. Now, when I used to reach out to people and they were not either available or interested, I'd ask, who do you know? Can you refer somebody to me? And essentially making my job as a hiring manager that much easier, because I don't have to go looking for people. The people will be introduced to me. And so this is also a very easy step. The last place hiring managers typically like to look, the last thing they like to do is talk to strangers. This is the most time-consuming part, because they have to meet with people they don't know. They've got to read the resume, have interviews and conversations, dig deep, and hopefully make a very good hiring decision. It's very expensive to make a poor hiring decision. So it takes a lot of time for the hiring managers to make sure they understand just who the people are they're interviewing, so they can make a good selection for them. So they don't want to talk to strangers. They want to talk to people that they know or that are referred into them. So why then are jobs hidden? Well, jobs are hidden for a bunch of reasons. The hiring manager could be waiting for final approval. It could be that there was actually somebody in that desk a couple of weeks ago, but I know anytime I had an open position and I had to refill an open position, I still needed permission. I had to justify, and it wasn't a hard process, but I had to justify, why do you really need somebody there? Can you get along without them? The company may be trying to save money by not hiring someone. So the hiring manager may know that there's an open position, can't promote it, can't advertise it just yet until he or she gets permission from the company to actually fill the position. The hiring manager could be looking at his or her network, just what we talked about a moment ago. And so looking at his or her network becomes a much more efficient way typically to hire someone, as we talked about before. So not willing to promote the position until they've exhausted their own network. So the job is not yet known, even though the job is open. You know, recruiters, external recruiters, sometimes get job requests, job recs, before the company says it's okay to recruit. And I know I had done that a few times with the recruiters that I trusted quite a bit, where I would say, I'm waiting for final approval or whatever the holdup was, but I would email them the job spec and let them start doing their own recruiting. Why did I do that? Well, I wasn't allowed to hire anyone yet because I was waiting for the company, but I wanted the recruiter to be able to hit the ground running, so that when I call up the recruiter and say, all right, the position's been officially open, they may have already sourced some resumes and can make the process more quickly. But it's a hidden position, it's not published yet. HR could be looking internally. When a company is of a medium or large size, it's not uncommon for our HR to post a job internally to see if there's an existing candidate that they can bring into the position, maybe make a lateral move or a promotion. So that's very common. Now, typically when there is an internal move, ultimately there will be some kind of hire, but it may not be, if they move somebody, then the position they moved from may not be the position for you. So there may be a position there eventually, but HR is taking their time looking internally. There could be some sort of event like an upcoming retirement. Imagine somebody who's getting ready to retire. Hopefully we will all be there one day soon. And I imagine the conversation might go something like this. Here we are in the beginning of October, and I would announce to my boss now that I've decided to retire at the end of the year. Well, that's almost 3 months. They may not be filling the position actively right now, but they may fill the position later, maybe towards December or January. But now this is a known open position. It's just not published yet. And HR has other priorities right now. Now, of course, when I teach this presentation in person, I'll ask people, what do you think HR's priorities are? And people will say, well, they fire people. No, that's not a priority for HR. But here we are in October. Think of the things that HR may be doing. They could be getting ready for the annual review process, if that's what companies are doing, or goal setting, or maybe HR also at certain times of the year will be looking at benefits. They may be looking to renegotiate benefits. There may be other corporate priorities going on that need input from HR, like how to source for an upcoming big project. And that's what they're putting their attention in. So HR does get very busy with lots of things, not just recruiting. But are really those jobs hidden? And maybe a lot of them are not quite hidden. So what we want to do is we want to start to get to know more people. And that's really what we need to do. And what we'll talk about here is, there may be 15, 20 people in a company that will know that there's a position that's available. They may not know a lot about that position, but there may be a lot of people in the company, especially a mid-size or larger company, that know that there's one position open in that one department, or they may know several positions. And so I'll kind of go through a little bit of a list of how I got to 20 people. It could be more, it could be less, but it's really just use this page a little bit as a guide to get a sense of who you may be able to get to know to help you. At the very least, there is the hiring manager. So when I was the hiring manager, when someone left, I knew somebody left and I wanted to fill that position. And remember, as the hiring manager, I want to talk to my network. I want to talk to somebody that I know. So if I knew if I had a relationship with somebody who may be able to fill a position, it could be a good opportunity for me to make my life easier, as well as bringing somebody on board. So one person you can get to know at different companies of interest is the hiring manager. Another, the department manager. So when someone left my organization, my department, I usually told my boss. The last 12 years of my career was the CIO or the IT director. I would say, Mary Jane left the company, we need to fill the position, and now there's a second person in the organization that knows that I have a position open. Now, depending on the size of the company, it may have to go up and get approval. So company leadership or division leadership may know. Now, division and company leadership, they can be different sizes. I said 3 to 6, so I picked the high number just to make a point. Now there are 8 people in the company that know there's a position available in my department. Now, the higher up you go, the department manager, the division management, they may not know the details about the position. They may not know the day-to-day responsibilities, but they'll know in that department that's under their responsibility is an open position. And hopefully they can refer you in. Now, once the department leadership has given permission to go fill the position, we're going to tell the HR director. Let the HR director know we now have permission to fill this. And so now the HR director is going to know about the position. And if anyone knows an HR director, they know, especially in a medium or big department, they have a bunch of staff, so they assign it to a generalist, which is someone who does a lot of the day-to-day type responsibilities. And there are different HR generalists that have different types of responsibilities, but a generalist is just that, more general. They may not be the generalist, they may be the recruiter within the company, depending on the size. But now there are 10 people already that know about this one open position in the department. Now think about any role that you've had over the years. You never typically worked all by yourself in a corner, in a silo, just by yourself. You generally worked with other people. So coworkers are going to know that there's an open position in their department. So if you know people that work in a department of interest at a company, they may be able to tell you, hey, there's a position that's open. Now, different departments have different sized people. Of course, I don't know if it'll be 1 or 5. I can tell you at one point in my career, I managed 12 people. So that could be, instead of 1 to 5, it could be 1 to 12. So it could be different sizes. Again, we're just using this as a guide. And then there are other departments that my department worked with. And again, if we use that same 1 to 5 level, well, there could be up to 20 people in any one department, in any one company that know about the one position open in the department. So what you need to do, you need to know more people. Now, this doesn't mean you have to know 20 people. It's better than that. It just means you have to know 1 person or 2 people. You don't have to know all 20 of these people. That would be a very hard thing to try to accomplish. But if you get to know 1 or 2 people in any one company, boy, do your odds go way up. So just trying to show you there's a whole list of people that you can target to get a connection into a company. Doesn't always have to be just the hiring manager. So How do you get to know more people? Well, networking. Networking is really the best way to get to know more people. We'll talk about different types of networking. And of course, now with the lockdown, the pandemic, it's a little bit more challenging, but not at all impossible. What you want to do, and this is really what networking is, it's the exchange of information among other people to develop productive relationships. And that's really what networking is about. As a matter of fact, some people don't like the word networking. They call it relationship building. And that's really just what it is. It doesn't mean that all these people are going to be your best buds. They're just professional friendships, professional connections. It's a means of making connections with people, and really with anybody. It doesn't matter who within the company you make a connection with. It also doesn't matter who within the world you make a connection with. Those of you that know Marty Latman may recall he told a story that he got a job shortly after being laid off because he went to get a haircut, and his hairstylist pointed him in the right direction for that next job. So you can make a connection with anybody. And you want to stay in touch with your contacts over time, and that helps cultivate a relationship. You can think about any of your friends or any of your professional relationships that you have. You didn't become best buds just because you shook hands on the first conversation. You developed and cultivated that over time. And so that's really all that'll happen. And it could be sending an email once in a while, texting once in a while, making a phone call once in a while. It doesn't really matter. You just want to do little touch points to stay in touch with people to keep your relationship strong. Networking is not about who you know. It's always about who knows you. You could say, I know the president of one company, or I know the hiring manager of another company. Well, you may have met these people, and that's fine. But do they know you? Do they think about you when there's a reason to do so? And so that's really what it is. And that's why you want to stay in touch with people to keep you in the back of your mind, of their mind. So networking is all about building relationships. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that's true. And here's how you can know it as well. It's here in bold red. And I couldn't put it in bold red if it wasn't true. And I think I read it on the internet, so it must be true. So build those strong relationships. Okay, we are at our first intermission, our first Q&A point. And so if anyone has any questions, please put them in chat. If there are any there now, let's go take a look at them. Let's see if I can find them. Did you see any, Alan?
You've done such a phenomenal job, David. They don't have any questions yet, or the other alternative is they're taking it easy on me. I'm not sure which.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to challenge Alan, type the question and let him read it. No worries. But yep, we are taking a break, and you can see there are other pictures here. If you need to go get your breakfast or a cup of coffee or take a personal break, that's fine. Oh, here's one from Pete. How good is Twitter for job searching? Twitter is pretty good. We're going to talk a little bit later about social media in general. We're not going to talk about how to use each of the platforms. That's just not what this program is. But Twitter is a very good platform. You don't write a whole lot in Twitter. Really, you use it to alert your network and point them someplace. And so a lot of companies are using Twitter more and more because it's a very well-used platform. There are over 330 million users on Twitter. If you're wondering about how successful Twitter is as a platform, this is not a political discussion, but just ask the President of the United States. Politics aside, President of the United States has used Twitter very effectively to get his message out. And there are people that follow him and report to us. So yeah, very good platform. Yeah, thanks, Pete. Let's see, any other questions?
Yeah, there was one other one that was directed to me, not to the general, but what are the legal requirements, if any, for a company to publicly post jobs?
So I don't know that. I don't know generally if there is a legal requirement, so you would have to consult, I guess, an employment law attorney. One experience I remember, I don't know if this is still legal or if it's just an anecdote. There was a time where we were looking to bring on an expat, a gentleman from India, and sponsor him. And in order to convert his sponsorship or do his sponsorship, we needed to post his position publicly, and we needed to interview candidates because our obligation was to hire someone who already was a citizen or had legal residency. And so we did. I interviewed 3 people. It's sad. It's a process where it was going to be very hard for someone other than this one particular person to be brought on board. He has since gotten his green card and he's a resident of the country, and actually he's still with that company I used to work for. But other than that, I don't know that there's actually a legal requirement to post and what that is. Now, companies also do have their own policies and procedures, and that would vary from company to company. So some companies may have their own policies and procedures. But to really answer the question, if there's a legal requirement, I think you'll have to speak to an attorney who really knows that much better than I do. Let's see. So let's see. This is from AK. When you say find the hiring manager at a large company, that seems like a daunting task. The person usually doesn't have the title of the hiring manager. I was looking for an associate director position at Merck, and there are at least 40 plus people in the department I was looking at. I assumed that one of them would be the primary contact for hiring that position. So I just bombed all 40 in the department to see who responds. Thanks in advance for providing any insight. I don't know what you mean by bombing 40 people, but any one of those other 40 would be a great contact. We're going to talk about in a moment the value of an employee referral. So if you make a connection with someone who may be more on your peer level rather than the hiring manager or anybody else in the company, it really greatly increases your odds of getting the opportunity to be interviewed and hired. And so I'm going to save the statistic for when we get to that slide in just a moment or so. So again, hopefully bombing, you meant you reached out to all of them and you didn't do something more aggressive than that. LinkedIn message, so that's what I meant, sending a link. Okay, so you can use certainly LinkedIn for connecting and for communicating with people as well. And by the way, if you don't have a connection, a first degree connection with someone on LinkedIn, you can get a premium subscription, and then you'll get LinkedIn InMail. It's their internal email, because you can only email people that you have a first degree connection, or join a group, a LinkedIn group, and hopefully those other people will be in the LinkedIn group, because you can connect with people that are not your first degree connection as long as you are in the same group. So that becomes helpful as well. So join a lot of industry groups. You can join 100 different groups in LinkedIn right now. Oh, let's skip that. Okay. All right, so let's move on for now, and we'll have more time for Q&A in just a few minutes. So hopefully you are back from getting your egg sandwich and coffee, and we will move along right now. Oops. There we go. Wanted you to have the full effect. Some of you may remember intermissions at the movie theater, and they would reopen up the screen. So why network to find a job? And it looks like this lady is looking for the hidden job. This is from the University of Michigan. I got this from a presentation from Mark Beal, so he did the homework for me. And if you're on this call, Mark, thank you so much. Your odds of getting a job through a job site, like an applicant tracking system, is 1 in 250. Those are long odds. Don't go to Las Vegas or Atlantic City and play a game at those odds. That's less than 1%. That number, 0.04%, that's not 4%. That's 0.04%. That's a very long odd of getting any kind of job. So you're competing with about 250 people. That's from a University of Michigan study. Those of you who know HR specialist Jerry Crispin, he talks about the same thing. The odds of getting a job through a job site application or the applicant tracking system are very long. But this is interesting. Employee referrals make up 7% of applicants, but 40% of hires. Your odds go up dramatically by getting an employee referral. So for those 20 people that you bombed at Merck, or 40 people that you bombed at Merck, whatever the number was, yeah, that was really a great way of getting a connection to someone, because it's not unusual for a mid or large size company to even have an employee referral plan. And the reason why companies offer employee referrals, sometimes it's cash or other benefits to the employee, is it's cheaper for them, and they get people who are who've got skin in the game at the company to provide applicants. So it becomes very relevant. So keep this in mind. You want to get to meet somebody in the company to really improve your odds dramatically of being hired. So you certainly want to network someone who currently works at the company. There are different types of networking, and so we'll just talk about them in clumps here. Now you'll have to decide the best one or ways or ones to use for yourself. Certainly there are the one-on-one type of networking. Now, some of these could be a little bit challenging just with the pandemic, but yeah, you can reach out with someone via email and write a very friendly introductory message. Maybe reach out by phone or have a virtual meeting like Zoom or GoToMeeting or Skype or any one of those. Use one of those platforms to have. Meet for coffee or lunch, or now it'd be a virtual coffee or lunch. But if you go to a restaurant that's serving outdoors and you're able to social distance, why not? And this doesn't mean you have to pay for lunch. You can do Dutch, because people go to lunch anyway. And certainly have informational interviews. And we're going to talk more about that in detail in just a few minutes. But the informational interview is a great way to let others know more about you and your background. But these are great one-on-one, great ways to form connections and enforce connections. Visit groups. There are certainly job seeker support groups like this, and there are many others. I'll introduce some at the end of the program here as well. Meetups. Meetup.com is a great place to meet people. No, it is not the #1 dating website on the internet. That's not what Meetup is. It is basically a website that lets you know of groups, and using Meetup is free. It's possible the individual group managers do charge a fee. That sometimes happens, but Meetup's whole goal is to facilitate the introduction of people to actual groups. That's all it is. So Meetup is 100% free for you and I to use. Unless you are the manager of a group, you pay for the subscription. Professional associations become also a great way to meet and work with people that are in your industry or in your role. Or you can form your own work groups, your own accountability groups. A few weeks ago, Paul Segala was here and talked about the benefit of, here as a presenter, and talked about the benefit of forming work groups. Become very targeted, your own little board of directors as it was. So it could be a great way to meet people and form relationships. Using social media. LinkedIn is terrific. LinkedIn is the #1 business social media website. Some people don't consider it social media. That's fine. It is, because you do have easy ways to communicate and connect with other people. There's give or take about 600 million users right now, and it is all business-oriented use. And all of you in job search are very interested in business-oriented sites. Twitter, so that's what Pete asked earlier. Twitter, a terrific website as well, social media site for communicating your message. Lots of companies put content out on Twitter. Facebook, the largest social media site on the planet, about 2.5 billion users. So more than 1/4 of everybody in the world has a Facebook account statistically. So that's what that is. Now, a lot of it is consumer oriented, families and individuals staying in touch, and that's fine, because individuals are workers at companies. You just never know. Instagram is great if you're going to be doing any sort of video content or imagery content, especially if you're in that industry. So you can post there. Companies are using Instagram more and more for advertising and promotion. You can blog, you can comment on other people's blog. Great way to stay active on social media. And commenting on blog is a great way to get started, or commenting on a post in LinkedIn or Facebook. Great way to get started, because it's easy and it's almost anonymous. So it really gets you comfortable if you're new to social media. And there are lots of other places as well. And here's the list. Volunteer. Start volunteering someplace. Participate in religious organizations or volunteer there as well. Join chambers of commerce. Chambers of commerce have local businesses as their members. Family functions. Family functions are probably the best unknown way to meet people. The reason why is you probably have a lot of family members that you see once a year who don't know what you do. So it's a great way to catch up with them as well. The checkout line at any store. So if you're at the supermarket, or like Marty Latman, if you're sitting in the barber's chair, talk to someone. And of course, I put the library, because we do meet at the Princeton Public Library. They have very limited hours right now, but some libraries and other community organizations are opening. May be a good place to meet people. You just never know. Lots of great places to start relationships with people. So I mentioned a little bit earlier the informational interview. So let's talk about what is an informational interview. And really, it's just a conversation. It's not meant to be formal. It can be, but it's very often informal. So that's really all an informational interview is. It's you, the job seeker, looking for information about the industry, the company, the culture of any potential workplace. But more importantly, it's about asking for advice about your career. You know, if you've been unemployed for a few months, you may want to talk to somebody who's in a company right now and say, what are the trends now? What's going on now? Or maybe what you want to find out about is, you know, I'm thinking of changing careers and I'm looking to get into your industry. Tell me a little bit about there. So you'll get about information about other companies as well, other roles, other marketplaces, a great place to get advice. And that's what's in it for you, the job seeker. But what's in it for the employer? They get to find potential future professionals, because they are judging you for a potential fit in a position in the future. Now, the informational interview is not about a specific job, and you never ask for a specific job, but it is a great way to get introduced to people. So it's not about hiring, even though it's kind of always an undercurrent in the discussion, and it's not about a specific job, and that may be also another undercurrent, but it's really about getting information and advice and guidance on your career. That's the power of the informational interview. And you start to develop new relationships with new people in other companies. So it becomes very powerful and helpful. So what to do? It's not hard, but what to do? Ask for advice. Ask for information on the company, on the industry, on culture, trends. What are legal aspects that are changing? Are there guidelines to follow, regulations? You know, you're there to learn. And also, don't be afraid to ask for more contacts, especially if you have a good informational interview, a nice meeting with someone. Thank them very much and say, is there anyone you recommend that I speak with? And now you've got your next informational interview. Don't ask for a job. It's always the undercurrent. It's always, you know, hidden part of the conversation, but don't ask for a specific job. It's a great way to turn somebody off. It just really is. So how do you initiate? Ask a mutual contact for an introduction. That's the best way. If you think about it, if you bombed, you know, those 20 or 40 people, a lot of them may ignore you because they don't know you. Or if you don't phrase it properly, you may come across as a little needy or desperate, and some people don't like to talk to people that way. But if you get an introduction from somebody, that's a big help. Remember, you're going to ask for more contacts. So if you've talked to person one at a company, when you reach out to the next person at the company or at another company, you can say, oh, the person I spoke with last week suggested I contact you. There's a lot of powerful capital from that relationship. The way I used to like to do it, especially when I didn't know the person I wanted to connect with, I sent an email. Now you can certainly do this with a phone call, and I referenced the recent contact or the mutual connection. And so usually what I wrote is in the subject line, if I was introduced by, let's say, Joe Smith, I would say in the subject line of the email, Joe Smith referred me to speak with you. And the reason why is, think about the experience of receiving an email from somebody you don't know. You're going to look at the name and you're going to look at the subject. And if either one of those are not relevant to you, you may not open the email. You may not open the email because you're too busy, or you're afraid of being, people are fishing for information or trying to hack into your email system. But if you had the name of somebody that you provided and you say, oh, gee, I know Joe Smith, I'm gonna open this message. I know the reference. It becomes very powerful. And then just schedule a few minutes. This is not gonna be like an hour-long job interview. Maybe you'll get 15 minutes and that's enough to start the relationship. Not much more than meeting and greeting someone for the first time, but hoping to get more out of the relationship later. It's only gonna be a few minutes. And then in your informational interview, have some good, powerful questions ready and handy. You want to really optimize the use of your time. You don't want to take up too much of their time, especially if they're working now, because they're busy. And they're going to appreciate that if you promise that you're going to talk for 15 minutes, that you limit the 15 minutes. If they say at the end of 15 minutes, oh no, I've got more time, I'm happy to talk with you a little longer, that's great. Keep the conversation going and don't worry about it, but stick to the time. But make sure you get information that's going to be helpful to you in your job search. That's what the informational interview is about. Okay. So as we wrap up, hidden jobs are simply those that are filled without the employer ever posting them. The jobs are open. They're available, but you don't know about them. Up to 70% of open jobs are not posted. This was from an article in Forbes magazine. I've seen other statistics in other articles as well that are very, very similar. Hiring managers prefer to hire people that they know. They'd rather not go out and meet or hire strangers. And most hidden jobs are not well hidden if you network with enough people. Remember, we went through a list that we could be networking with. And if you get informational interviews. These are powerful ways to get introduced to other people and to be exposed to jobs. What you're going to want out of this in the end is when they have that hidden job, when that hiring manager or anyone else in the company has the hidden job, they're going to think about you as soon as they hear about that open job. And then the job may never be posted, but you're going to find out about it. And that's what's going to be powerful about networking for the hidden job market. Okay, are there any other questions? And I don't want to press the wrong button. Let's see.
I got one directly, David.
Okay.
When you network on LinkedIn with a potential hiring manager or recruiters and they don't respond, how often is it appropriate to follow up? That's one question. And then also, if you...
I'm sorry, two questions together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, if you find a position in the company, is it okay to send the resume/cover letter directly to the recruiter/hiring manager?
Okay, so the two separate questions. And since I have the memory of the sieve, like a sieve, I'm going to probably ask you to repeat the second one in a moment. So how often should you contact someone? You know, if this is somebody that you don't know at all, and you don't yet have a relationship or professional friendship, I would think the limit would be 2. Beyond that, I think you're pushing it a little bit. So I think it's certainly very reasonable to send a message the first time, somebody you don't yet know, but you have an interest in speaking with, have a brief introduction for yourself and why you would like to speak with him or her. Maybe wait a week or so and have a follow-up. And I don't think that's unreasonable. It's possible they missed it. It's also possible that they knew that they got it and just forgot to reply to you. That's possible. Anything after that, I think you're pushing it. There's kind of a joke. There's a fine line between networking and stalking. I think if you contact someone over and over and over again, you're leaning towards the stalking side. And I'm sorry, Alan, what was the second question? Because it already fell out of my head.
No worries. If you find a position in the company, is it okay to send the resume cover letter directly to the recruiter/hiring manager?
I think in general, yes, but I think what I would do first is I would write the email introducing myself. I don't think I would send the resume because I don't know what their process is. They may not want it. They may see it as an imposition. I think what I would do, what I'm comfortable doing, is I would send an introductory email along the lines, not word for word, saying that I see that you have a position available for a project manager. I'm a project manager in your industry. I'd love to be able to share my contact information with you or send my resume to you, something like that, as I apply for the position online, and let them know that you're going to do this and see what the response is. You know, start it a bit friendly. I've always found that personally a little bit of an imposition of you just sending me a resume, if it's not their process, maybe they'll be a little turned off by it. So I don't want to be too pushy. That's the way I do it. Now, I don't think it's inappropriate if you come up with the right words, the right way of phrasing it and attaching the resume. It's just not something that I was comfortable doing. Let's see. So here's an anonymous. If one has been out for 2 years, would it be wise to take a role with a smaller bank, I guess you used to be at a bank, for less pay? This would also block me from applying to relaunch programs who require one be out for 2 years. There's no guarantee that I'll get any of the relaunch programs, but will working for a smaller bank hurting getting a better job at a larger bank? My instinct tells me it's not a problem at all. There are a couple things here. One is, if you're out for a while, there is unemployment discrimination. And basically, if there are 2 candidates, 2 resumes that are exactly identical, and with experience, and the only difference is one is currently working and one is not working, statistically, the hiring manager will hire the employed person, not the one that is out. There's some irrational thought that, well, if no one else will hire her, why would I? So that's one side of it. So get yourself working. Also, you could start at the smaller company with less pay. You may like it, you may get promoted. So maybe a wonderful opportunity to be there. Or you'll get you may say, you know, I like the small bank. It's a lot more fun working here than the big bank. So you may get some nice surprise out of it as well. And then everybody's situation is different, but there are some people where it's hard without having the income. You can't keep drawing on savings, or you've got expenses that you have to make. You need to be working right now. And so there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think you still have the opportunity, once you're working at a company and you're a level down from what you're used to, as you interview going forward, you'll get the question, why did you take the junior manager's role when you used to be a senior manager? And you can tell them very honestly, look, I was unemployed. I took this position with the hope of contributing or being effective and having the opportunity for promotion, but I see that's not really possible here. I'm really most effective as a senior manager, and that's why I'm looking right now. We're at a time where it's not unusual for people to be unemployed, and hiring managers won't be surprised that you were unemployed, at least not to the extent that years ago when the market was really very good. So yeah, I don't think there's any problem with that at all. Okay. So Mike is asking, networking can be very busy and hectic and tiring. What would you recommend as priorities to the various network pathways? Like any project that I've managed, I've always created a priority list, my own priority list. So I can't tell you what your priorities are, but what I would do is tell you, put your list of priorities together, or maybe what they are, what are your goals? What are you looking to do to get out of networking? I don't mean get out of it from not networking, but the value you're going to get from it. And make this list. And then it'll help you target either the companies or the organizations or the activities that make the most sense for you and your career. If you don't do that, and this is true with any kind of project or anything you can do at home and work, you have a scattergun approach. You may hit certain things, but not the things you want to hit. So you'll be spinning your wheels on a lot of things, spending time on a lot of things that are not going to yield a lot of productive value. So I'd say you need to do and identify the things that are most important to you. Then that will help you to target the people, the organizations, the roles that make the most sense for you to start focusing your networking efforts. And yes, it can be tiring. Take breaks. It's funny, I've talked with people over the years who say, you know, looking for a job is a full-time job. I've got to be at it 9 to 5 and work, 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 work. I don't take any breaks. That's funny. I used to work 9 to 5. Actually, I was in IT. I worked 12 hours days. I took lots of breaks. I went to get a cup of coffee. Sometimes I took a walk around the building. I had to clear my head because that's ultimately what kept me more focused. So don't worry about taking breaks every once in a while. It could be a few minutes. It could be an hour. If you want to watch TV, if you want to read a book, if you just want to take a small nap, whatever it is you need to do to keep yourself fresh. Okay, from AK, do you have a suggestion for how to build on a relationship that starts with that 15-minute chat? Sure. Send an email when there's something of interest. Maybe you and that person were in the same industry and you got a notification about a virtual conference or seminar that's coming up. And so you write an email, hey, I remember what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. I got this invitation to a virtual conference. I thought you'd like to know about it. So something like that. Keep it professional, keep it business oriented, but keep it casual and keep the other person in mind. You are helping them and you want to give them things that could be helpful to them. Maybe there's an article, new regulation is coming down the pike, new laws. Hey, didn't know if you knew about this. Just, I found it interesting, thought you would as well. Little things like that. If it's been a while, you can make a phone call. You might, depends on how well you've and how comfortable you've gotten with that person. Stay in touch. Yep, so there's lots of different ways to do it. You want to keep you in the back of their mind. Let's see, next question from Dara. What do you say in an email to a contact to get an introduction to an employee that they know? So I'm assuming you say an email to a contact. The contact is someone you know. So Dara, if you knew me and wanted an introduction to one of my contacts, I think it's actually a pretty easy process, because if it's somebody that you know, you have that relationship already. And you can have it as a very friendly email, you know, dear David, it's been a while since we've been in touch, hope you're doing well. One or two, you know, pleasantries, and say, hey, I see that you're connected to Mary Smith at the ABC company. I was wondering if you can facilitate an introduction. You have a friendly relationship with the person you're reaching out to. It's easy to be direct and friendly to them, and I'm sure that person will be very helpful. I've done that plenty of times, and I actually find that's the best way for me to facilitate informational interviews. Reach out to someone that I know, or hopefully someone that me and the other person knows, and to facilitate that introduction. I found that to be very helpful. Okay, thanks. Some contact information. Okay, so we still have time for a couple of questions. If you want, we can put them there. Otherwise, also, if you want to connect to PSG of Mercer County, that's our group's email address.
David, it's Pete. Have a quick question. LinkedIn, is it worth getting the premium? It seems like they took away some of the functions unless you order the premium version.
I love quoting Marty Latman. It depends. So what I would say is, for anybody, look at what the functionality that LinkedIn gives you in one of their premium subscriptions. If you will use that functionality, it may be worth you paying for the subscription. Now, you typically can try the premium subscription for free for 30 days. So they may give you that free. So pack everything into 30 days, or try it month to month. You might try it for 2 or 3 months, see if it's worthwhile, because it's about $25 or $30 a month. And if it's not good, then what you do is go back to your free. Overall, I found that I was not more productive with the paid version. It did allow me to use InMails, but once I started connecting to a lot more groups for free, I found I was able to connect to a lot of people through the groups, and I didn't need the InMails as readily. So it depends, but see what the features are and if you'll use them.
Like when mentioned that also they give you trainings. It's very good because it's short. If you have premium.
I'm sorry. It looks like Tatiana. I can't hear you. Can you get a little closer to your microphone?
Oh, okay.
Or speak up.
I will type.
Yes, yes, and that's another reason why I suggest people type a question or a comment. Now, by the way, we're going to wrap up the meeting in a couple of minutes, and I will then leave the meeting open for at least a half an hour for open networking. So we could all just keep our microphones open and have a discussion then on anything you want at that time. And that's, but you know, we still have a lot of people on the call. It can be a little disruptive to have conversations during the presentation. Barbara has a question. Do hiring managers frown on candidates that try to apply for positions lower than their previous role? Perhaps you want to take a lower position to get more hands-on training support. Is there a good way to sell that to a hiring company? Yeah, and I think you just outlined it. There are a couple of reasons why people don't want the higher position or the position that they used to have. Maybe you were a manager and you just don't want to manage people anymore. I actually hired a guy in 2002, 2003 timeframe. He was a manager. We were looking for a programmer that had his experience. I wasn't looking for a manager. And he basically said, I tried it. My company promoted me. I really didn't like it. I prefer being hands-on. Not only did I hire him in 2003, he outlasted me and he retired from the company earlier this year. So it was a good fit for him. I think it's very easy to tell the story, but it's a little hard to tell that story if you're only going to apply through the applicant tracking system. So if you're applying to an assistant manager position in an applicant tracking system and you upload your resume and your resume shows senior manager or director or VP titles, you probably won't ever be seen by a hiring manager or HR. It's just going to be stuck in the applicant tracking system. Instead, what you're going to want to do is reach out to someone personally to have that discussion and make your case that way. But I don't think hiring managers frown upon it. The good ones are going to say, wow, I get all that experience in this role. I think it's a lot of value. So Tatiana was asking, LinkedIn training very good short. Training very good short. I'm not sure what your comment is, Tatiana, so I'm sorry. But LinkedIn does offer, you know, training programs. So, you know, you could look there. There are also, by the way, on the PSG of Mercer County website, in professional development tab, there's a link for e-learning websites. We've got like 43 or 44 links to different e-learning websites, including lynda.com, which used to be part of LinkedIn. Not sure if it's still part of the LinkedIn subscription any longer. And lynda.com is also available for free through your own library and some other professional associations. So you may not need LinkedIn Premium to get their training.
David, if I could add something to your list of places to go for the networking, one would be the vendors. Even in the pandemic, people like VM and Oracle, I'm getting stuff regularly from them talking about open sessions. Good way to keep up technologically, and also, of course, you got a whole lot of people who are working.
There are a lot of companies that also offer free introductory training to their products. And the reason why is they want you to use the product, and then hopefully they'll get more business once you go to your new company. So you may find free versions. Sometimes they're partial versions, like you can create your thing, but you can't print it out. You know, that's how they limit it for free. But yeah, you know, get free versions of software. Contact the vendors to see if they have meet and greets and other programs going on. Terrific. Thanks, John. So, all right, tell you what, let's wrap up this program. So thank you all very much.